Cyclops. Book 9. A member of a race of savage, one-eyed giants. In his next adventure, Odysseus describes his encounter with a Cyclops named Polyphemus, Poseidon's one-eyed monster son. Polyphemus may well represent the brute forces that any hero must overcome before he can reach home. Now Odysseus must rely on the special intelligence associated with his name. Odysseus is the cleverest of the ancient Greek heroes because his divine guardian is the goddess of wisdom, Athena. It is Odysseus' famed curiosity that leads him to the Cyclops' cave, and that makes him insist on waiting for the barbaric giant. Odysseus is still speaking to the court of King Alcinous. We soon were at the cave, but did not find the Cyclops. He was pasturing his flocks. We went inside and looked at everything. We saw his crates weighed down with cheese, and pens crammed full of lambs divided up by age, the newborns, middlings, and those just weaned. There were well-crafted bowls and pails for milking, all full of whey. My crew begged, "Let us grab some cheese and quickly drive the kids and lambs out of their pens and down to our swift ships and sail away across the salty water." That would have been the better choice, but I refused. I hoped to see him and find out if he would give us gifts. In fact, he brought no joy to my companions. Then we lit a fire and made a sacrifice, and ate some cheese, and sat to wait inside the cave, until he brought his flocks back home. He came at dinner time, and brought a load of wood to make a fire. He hurled it noisily into the cave. We were afraid, and cowered towards the back. He drove his ewes and nannies inside to milk them, but he left the rams and he-goats in the spacious yard outside. He lifted up the heavy stone and set it to block the entrance of the cave. It was a rock so huge and massive, 22 strong carts could not have dragged it from the threshold. He sat, and all in order milked his ewes and she-goats. Then he set the lambs to suck each beside each bleeding mother. Then he curdled half of the fresh white milk, set that aside in wicker baskets, and the rest he stored in pails so he could drink it with his dinner. When he had carefully performed his chores, he lit a fire and then looked around and saw us. "Strangers, who are you? Where did you come from across the watery depths? Are you on business or roaming around without a goal, like pirates who risk their lives at sea to bring disaster to other people?" So he spoke, his voice so deep and becoming, and his giant size made our hearts sink in terror. "Even so," I answered, "we are Greeks come here from Troy. The winds have swept us off in all directions across the vast expansive sea, off course from our planned route back home. Zeus willed it so. We are proud to be the son of Agamemnon, the son of Atreus, whose fame is greatest under the sky for sacking that vast city and killing many people. Now we beg you, here at your knees, to grant a gift, as is the norm for hosts and guests. Please, sir, my lord, respect the gods. We are your suppliants. And Zeus is on our side, since he takes care of visitors, guest friends, and those in need." Unmoved, he said, "Well, foreigner, you are a fool, or from some very distant country. You order me to fear the gods. My people think nothing of that Zeus with his big scepter, nor any god. Our strength is more than theirs. If I spare you, or spare your friends, it will not be out of fear of Zeus. I do the bidding of my own heart. But are you going far in that fine ship of yours, or somewhere near?" He spoke to test me, but I saw right through him. I know how these things work. I answered him deceitfully. "Poseidon, the earth-shaker, shipwrecked me at the far end of your island. He pushed us in, wind dashed us on the rocks, and we barely managed to survive. But he made no reply and showed no mercy. Leaping up high, he reached his hand towards my men, seized two, and knocked them hard against the ground like puppies, and the floor was wet with brains. He ripped them limb by limb to make his meal, then ate them like a lion on the mountains, devouring flesh, entrails, and marrow bones, and leaving nothing. Watching this disaster, we wept and lifted up our hands in prayer to Zeus. We felt so helpless. When the Cyclops had filled his massive belly with his meal of human meat and unmixed milk, he lay stretched out among his flocks. Then, thinking like a military man, I thought I should get out my sword, go up to him, and thrust right through his torso, feeling for his liver. That would have doomed us all. On second thought, I realized we were too weak to move the mighty stone he had set in the doorway. So we stayed there in misery till dawn. Early the dawn appeared, pink fingers blooming, and then he lit his fire and milked his ewes in turn, and set a lamb by everyone. When he had diligently done his chores, he grabbed 2 men and made a meal of them. After he ate, he drove his fat flock out. He rolled the boulder out and back with ease, as one would set the lid upon a quiver. Then, whistling merrily, the Cyclops drove his fat flocks to the mountain. I was left scheming to take revenge on him and hurt him and gain the glory, if Athena let me. I made my plan. Beside their pen there stood a great big club, green olive wood, which he had cut to dry to be his walking stick. It was so massive that it looked to us like a ship's mast, a 20-oared black freighter that sails across the vast sea full of cargo. I went and cut from it a 10-foot section, and gave it to the men, and ordered them to scrape it down. They made it smooth, and I stood by and sharpened up the end, and made it hard in the blazing flame. The cave was full of dung. I hid the club beneath a pile. Then I gave orders that the men cast lots for who would lift the stake with me and press it into his eye, when sweet sleep overtook him. The lots fell on the men I would have chosen, 4 men, and I was 5th among their number. At evening he drove back his woolly flocks into the spacious cave, both male and female, and left none in the yard outside, perhaps suspecting something, or perhaps that God told him to do it. He picked up and placed a stone to form a door, and sat to milk the sheep and bleating goats in turn, then put the little ones to suck. His chores were done. He grabbed 2 men for dinner, and I approached him and offered him a cup of ivy wood filled with wine. I said, "Here, Cyclops, you've eaten human meat, now drink some wine. Sample the merchandise our ship contains. I brought it as a holy offering, so you might pity me and send me home. But you were in a cruel rage beyond what anyone could bear. Do you expect more guests, when you have treated us so rudely?" He took and drank this sweet, delicious wine. He loved it and demanded more. "Another! And now tell me your name, so I can give you a present as my guest, one you will like. My people do have wine. Grape clusters grow from a rich earth, fed well by rain from Zeus. But this is nectar, god food." So I gave him another cup of wine, and then 2 more. He drank them all unwisely. With the wine gone to his head, I told him, all politeness, "Cyclops, you asked my name. I will reveal it. Then you must give me the gift you promised me of hospitality. My name is Noman. My family and friends all call me Noman." He answered with no pity in his heart, "I will eat Noman last. First, I will eat the other men. That is my gift to you." Then he collapsed, fell on his back, and lay there, his massive neck askew. All-conquering sleep took him. In drunken heaviness he spewed wine from his throat and chunks of human flesh. And then I drove the spear into the embers to heat it up, and told my men, "Be brave." I wanted none of them to shrink in fear. The fire soon had seized the olive spear, green though it was, and terribly it glowed. I quickly snatched it from the fire. My crew stood firm. Some god was breathing courage into us. They took the olive spear, its tip all sharp, and shoved it in his eye. I leaned on top and twisted it, as when a man drills wood for shipbuilding. Below, the workers spin the drill with straps stretching out from either end. So round and round it goes. And so we whirled the fire-sharp weapon in his eye. His blood poured out around the stake, and blazing fires sizzled his lids and brows and fried the roots, as when a blacksmith dips an axe, or adze, to temper it in ice-cold water. Loudly it shrieks. From this the iron takes on its power. So did his eyeball crackle on the spear. Horribly then he howled. The rocks resounded, and we shrank back in fear. He tugged the spear out of his eye, all soaked with gushing blood. Desperately, with both hands, he hurled it from him, and he shouted to the Cyclops who lived in caves high up on the windy cliffs around. They heard, and came from every side and stood near to the cave and called out, "Polyphemus, what is the matter? Are you badly hurt? Why are you screaming through the holy night and keeping us awake? Is someone stealing your herds, or trying to kill you, by some trick or force?" Strong Polyphemus from inside replied, "My friends, no man is killing me, by tricks, not force." Their words flew back to him. "Well, if no one hurts you, you are all alone. Great Zeus has made you sick. No help for that. Pray to your father, mighty Lord Poseidon." Then off they went, and I laughed to myself at how my name, the no-man maneuver, tricked him. The Cyclops groaned and labored in his pain, felt with blind hands, and took the doorstone out, and sat there at the entrance, arms outstretched, to catch whoever went out with the sheep. Maybe he thought I was a total fool, but I was strategizing, hatching plans, so that my men and I could all survive. I wove all kind of wiles and cunning schemes. Danger was near, and it was life or death. The best idea I formed was this. There were those well-fed, sturdy rams with good thick fleece, wool as dark as violets, all fine big creatures. So I silently tied them with the rope used by the giant Cyclops as a bed. I bound the rams in sets of 3, and set a man beneath each middle sheep, with one on either side, and so my men were saved. One ram was the best of all the flock. I grabbed his back and curled myself up underneath his furry belly, clinging to his fleece. By force of will I kept on hanging there, and then we waited miserably for day. When early dawn revealed her rose-red hands, the rams jumped up, all eager for grass. The ewes were bleeding in their pens, unmilked, their udders full to bursting. Though their master was weak and worn with pain, he felt the back of each ram as he lined up, but missed the men tied up beneath their woolly bellies. Last of them all, the big ram went outside, heavy with wool, and me, the clever trickster. Strong Polyphemus stroked his back and asked him, "Sweet ram, why are you last to leave the cave? Today to leave the cave. You are not normally so slow. You are the first to eat the tender flowers leaping across the meadow, first to drink, and first to want to go back to the sheepfold at evening time. But now you are last. You grieve your master's eye. That wicked man, helped by his nasty henchmen, got me drunk and blinded me. No man will not escape. If only you could talk like me and tell me where he is skulking in his fear of me, then I would dash his brains out of the rocks and make them spatter all across the cave, to ease the pain that no good no man brought." With that he nudged the ram away outside. We rode a short way from the cave. Then I first freed myself and then untied my men. We stole as nice fat animals and ran constantly glancing all around and back until we reached the ship. The other men were glad to see us, their surviving friends, but wept for those who had died. I ordered them to stop their crying, scowling hard at each. I made them shove the fleecy flock on board and row the boat out into the salty water. So they embarked, sat on their rowing benches, and struck their oar blades in the whitening sea. When I had gone as far as shouts can carry, I jeered back. "Hey, Cyclops! Hey, you, Cyclops, idiot! The crew trapped you in your cave did not belong to some poor weakling. Well, you had it coming. You had no shame at eating your own guests, so Zeus and other gods have paid you back." My taunting made him angrier. He ripped a rock out of the hill and hurled it at us. It landed right in front of our dark prow and almost crushed the tip of the steering oar. The stone sank in the water and waves surged up. The backflow all at once propelled the ship landward. The swollen water pushed us with it. I grabbed a big long pole and shoved us off. I told my men, "Row fast to save your lives," and gestured with my head to make them hurry. They bent down to their oars and started rowing. We got out twice as far across the sea, and then I called to him again. My crew begged me to stop and pleaded with me. "Please, calm down. Why are you being so insistent and taunting this wild man? He hurled that stone and drove our ship right back to land. We thought that we were going to die. If he had heard us, he would have hurled a jagged rock and crushed our heads in wooden ship. He throws hard." But my tough heart was not convinced. I was still furious and shouted back, "Cyclops, if any mortal asks how your eye was mutilated and made blind, say that Odysseus, the city sacker, Laertes' son, who lives on Ithaca, destroyed your sight." He groaned. "The prophecy! It has come true at last. There was a tall and handsome man named Telemus, the son of Eurymus, who lived among my people. He spent his life here, soothsaying for us. He told me that Odysseus' hands would make me lose my sight. I always thought somebody tall and handsome, strong and brave would come to me, but now this little weakling, this little nobody has blinded me. By wine he got the best of me. Come on, Odysseus, and let me give you gifts and ask Poseidon's help to get you home. I am his son. The god is proud to be my father. He will heal me if he wants, though no one else, not God nor man, can do it." After he said those words, I answered him, "If only I could steal your life from you and send you down to Hades' house below, as sure as nobody will ever heal you, even the god of earthquakes." But he prayed, holding his arms toward the starry sky. "Listen, earth-shaker, blue-haired Poseidon, acknowledge me, your son, and be my father. Grant that Odysseus, the city sacker, will never go home, or if it is fated that he will see his family, then let him get there late and with no honor, in pain and lacking ships, and having caused the death of all his men, and let him find more trouble in his own house." Blue Poseidon granted his son's prayer. Polyphemus raised a rock far bigger than the last and swung. then hurled it with immeasurable force. It fell a little short beside our rudder